Yo, what is going on, everyone? My name is Nick, or the Notorious Fantasy, and in today's video, we are going to be talking about Overlay DFS matchup shop picks for Thursday night football between my Miami Dolphins and the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, in this video, I'm going to go over each and every single matchup, talking about the Thursday night game. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 total matchups for the Thursday night special. Now, I'm going to be talking about the rules before we get into it so that you guys have a better understanding of how it works. Now, the scoring on this website on Overlay is 4 point per passing touchdown. The interception is -2. Rushing touchdown is +6 points. Receiving touchdown +6. Reception is half point. It's a very standard type of fantasy football scoring. It's just a DFS website doing that. So understand, how does this work? You might be wondering. So pretty much what it is, it's a head-to-head fantasy football game just with the addition of the spread, like in real gambling. So it's player versus player based on those point totals that we just talked about. 4 point per passing touchdown, half point PPR, things like that. So we are going to be breaking down each and every single matchup, and I'm going to give you guys my opinion on each and every single game here for Thursday night, and expect a video coming out on Sunday talking about the Sunday slate of games. So here we begin with James Robinson versus Myles Gaskin. Now the price is +7 to Myles Gaskin and -7 for James Robinson, because the perceived value of James Robinson is obviously much higher, considering James Robinson in real leagues is like a top 15 running back right now, and Myles Gaskin is more of a bench piece and kind of a hold piece to see what happens in the future for Myles Gaskin. Obviously, Myles Gaskin's backfield is very clouded. Jordan Howard, Matt Breida, Myles Gaskin and friends all back there getting touches. For James Robinson, it's really just a dominated touch count by James Robinson. The only other people getting rushes in this offense are actually Gardner Minshew and Laviska Shenault. One is the quarterback, Gardner Minshew, and the wide receiver, Laviska Shenault. Now, in this game, DJ Chark is out of this game. So maybe they try to run the ball a little bit more in this matchup, but I don't really think that matters, considering Gardner Minshew spreads the ball out so evenly between guys. So when looking at Myles Gaskin versus James Robinson, we have to take a look here on fantasydata.com. So James Robinson right now averages 14.5 half PPR points per game, whereas Myles Gaskin averages 9.9 half PPR points per game. If we mosey on here to look at James Robinson's stats from this season, we're going to put it on half PPR, because remember, those are the settings for OverlayDFS.com. We can see that both of Robinson's games have been pretty good, and last week we saw him really get the boost in yards as well as touchdowns. Now, the Miami Dolphins secondary is very injured. Byron Jones not going to be playing in this game. Xavier Howard still banged up. So I think that this defense, or this offense, is going to be able to both pass and run against them. So now we're going to go ahead and take a look at Mr. Myles Gaskin to determine kind of how we want to feel about this. Do we want to take James Robinson minus the 7 points, or do we want to take Myles Gaskin on the hope that the +7 is going to get us all the way to the promised land of slaying out Mr. James Robinson? So last week, he had 11.2 points, and week 1, he had 8.6 points. So, to me, it kind of seems like this one is going to be a very close matchup up till the end of the game, but based on what I'm looking at, based upon the averages, you're going to want to hear and you're going to want to lean Mr. Myles Gaskin in this matchup. But understand that if James Robinson gets 7 zillion touches in this game, he'll probably be able to beat him out. But I'm going to go with Myles Gaskin here in this high upside spot. I bet you most people are on James Robinson due to the fact that he just seems like a much safer play, when in reality, if you're looking at it on a points per game basis, you can see that Myles Gaskin +7 would beat out James Robinson in that matchup. Next matchup here is Matt Breida versus Chris Thompson. Now, this one, there's not even too much to look into. Both of these guys not very used at all in their offense. This matchup, in my eyes, completely depends on the game script of the game. Matt Breida getting an additional point, Chris Thompson losing 1. If the Jaguars are up by 1 million, Chris Thompson will be absolutely useless in this matchup, in my opinion. If the Dolphins are up by 1 million, Matt Breida might not touch the field. So with that said, when I think there's going to be a back and forth game, I'm going to lean the way of Chris Thompson -1. On a per game basis, we can see that Chris Thompson averages 6, but he had 1 really good game and then 1 really shit game week 1, whereas Matt Breida's had kind of 2 games that are just not very good at all, where he's not super involved. I believe he ended up scoring a touchdown last week. No, he didn't. He ended up fumbling the ball last week, so he's just not looking very good at all, in my opinion. So I think I'd much rather just lose the 1 point here and take Chris Thompson here going up against Matt Breida. Now, the next matchup here is going to get deleted by the time you see this, because DJ Chark is not going to end up playing in this matchup. So there's no need to break this down, considering it is just going to get deleted, and it may end up getting replaced by OverlayDFS.com. So next game here, we got Mike Kasich versus Preston Williams. Now, Gasicki is losing 5 points, and Preston Williams is gaining 5 points, which is kind of important when looking at this matchup. Now, Preston Williams last week really ended up disappointing pretty big because he did not end up scoring a touchdown. He ended up dropping the ball when he was pretty much wide open in the end zone, and he could have helped the Dolphins propel themselves to a victory up against the Buffalo Bills. Now, if we look at Preston Williams' statistics from the last 2 weeks, we can see that Preston Williams has kind of been just iffy the last 2 games. 5 targets, 1 catch, 7 targets, 2 receptions. Now, do we expect him to have a bounce-back game over the safety net of Mike Gesicki? Mike Gesicki has been very safe the last 2 weeks of the season. We saw him really explode, though, up against the Buffalo Bills. Against the Patriots, he was involved and did not score a touchdown when they threw him a touchdown later in the game due to the fact that I feel like there was pass interference on the call, but, the refs love the Patriots, so they're not going to go ahead and call that. 11 targets last week up against the Buffalo Bills, 5 targets before that. I just feel like I'd much rather take the safety here of Mike Gesicki. I understand if Preston Williams scores, then Mike Gesicki will probably end up losing out on this matchup, but that's the risk I'm going to take since I believe Mike Gesicki ends up finding the end zone in this matchup up against the Jacksonville Jaguars. And the final matchup here, we got the quarterback, the beard versus the stash, Gardner Minshew versus Ryan Fitzmagic. To me, from afar, without really breaking this down too much, it seems like Gardner Minshew would be a lock to beat out Ryan Fitzpatrick in this game. It just feels like Gardner Minshew will be given more opportunity to air the ball out in this game and play quite well. But at the end of the day, Ryan Fitzmagic is one of those sneaky quarterbacks that could just beat out anyone. I wouldn't be surprised if Ryan Fitzmagic was a top 10 quarterback any single week because the guy just has a light switch that he just turns on and he looks magnificent out there. That's why they call him Mr. Ryan Fitzmagic. Now, if we're looking at Gardner Minshew stats over the last 2 weeks, he has been very productive in this Jags offense. We saw 2 different kind of Gardner Minshews, though. Week 1, we saw him up against the Indianapolis Colts, super accurate, 19 completions on 20 attempts for 173 yards and 3 total touchdowns. Last week, up against the Tennessee Titans, we saw him kind of play more sloppy, 30 completions, 45 attempts, 3 tutties, but 2 interceptions. So the real question is here is which Gardner Minshew are we going to see in this game? The more dissecting Gardner Minshew, where he's not throwing the ball as much, but is still still pretty productive, or the one where he's airing the ball out a lot and is still very productive at the same time, but does run the risk of throwing INTs. So looking at this here, we have seen Fitzpatrick play like absolute dog shit week 1, and then week 2, him really turn it on. So in this matchup, I feel like it is going to be very close. I feel like this one may be decided by a couple of points, and I think in that kind of a matchup where I think if it was money line, just player versus player, that I think Gardner Minshew might be able to slightly edge him out. But in that case, I'm going to go with Ryan Fitzmagic and take the additional 4.5 points. I just feel like 4.5 points is a lot to be losing out here between 2 quarterbacks. If Gardner Minshew just throws one more touchdown than him and the yards are very close, you're going to end up winning with Ryan Fitzmagic in this case, and I just feel like that's the way I am edging in this game. I am a Miami Dolphins fan, though, just so you guys know, so I am rooting for my Dolphins to end up winning in this matchup. So I'm going to go ahead and say Ryan Fitzmagic here, plus 4.5, but don't be surprised if Gardner Minshew completely lights him up. So thank you guys all for watching this video. Again, if you ended up enjoying, please make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. Check out OverlayDFS.com, link down below in the description. They are my friends, they are my sponsor, they're awesome over there on here, and we are going to win an ass load of money tonight. Real quick, let me show you how it works. And then you put money in. So say Myles Gaskin, you want to bet $10 on him. You're very confident he's going to beat James Robinson straight into the dirt. $10 wins you 18. Say maybe you want to go 50. You're going to throw 50 in there. It wins 90. Very simple. Each one is the exact same odds, minus 125. So say you want to bet 10 on Gaskin. You feel more confident on Thompson. You just want to bet 5. Here you want to go with 3. And here you want to go with 4. That's how the payout structure works over there on the side. So thank you guys all for watching. I love each and every single one of you guys. Make sure you check out Overlay DFS. Again, link down below in the description. I'll see you guys later in a live stream. Goodbye.